good morning to everybody. I'm Professor Ilibia, one of the organizers of this year's C2C from the Technion. You know everything about the competition, so I don't need to repeat all the information you have in the site, and you can contact us as needed. As usual, if you have any problems, just contact our service by email, so you'll get all the answers if you have problems connecting to the FifthDomain dry run this week or anything else. Feel free to contact. We'll have today's lecture where you can hear more about the systems, and we'll have time for questions at the end. Today's webinar will be given by Rayleigh Francis. He is a senior sales engineer in FifthDomain. FifthDomain is the company whose system will serve for the competition. As you could see, the dry run is open, so you can also enter the system to see how it works and see some of the questions that some like them may appear in the competition. So today's webinar will be on tips from the C2C competition platform experts, and the expert on the system will talk about it. Rayleigh?
Hello, how's everyone going?
Great. Can you put your camera on?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Good. So I'll stop talking, and now it's you. Thank you.
No worries. I will present my slides. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes. Yep.
Fantastic. So hi, I'm Rayleigh Francis. I am a sales engineer at FifthDomain who has been given the honor to host this year's Country to Country on our competitions platform. So I'll be walking you through a little bit about who we are, how to use the platform, and then some tips from previous years and how to prepare for this CTF if it's your first CTF that you have ever done. So FifthDomain is a cybersecurity analytics and workforce training company here in Australia. We do training for clients to try and meet certain outcomes. This is typically cybersecurity related roles, so like red team pen testers or blue team network analysts, forensic investigators, and those forth. So that's pretty much who we are at a very high level. I won't keep talking about us because this is about the platform and the competition in this particular case. So using the CTF, I'll just jump across to sharing the other screen. That is probably the wrong screen. That's fine. So this is the competitions platform. You should all already have access to the dry run competition. If you don't, do reach out, and then we will add you to the competition in case you don't already have access. So we're going to be simulating a first time access for this competition for those who haven't yet had to play with the competition yet. As really, these are the rules for the competition. Essentially, it'll be running until the 14th. We have technical support on 9 to 5 local Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time on business days. You can access the help through the help menu here, or there's also help available in a particular challenge page, which I'll demonstrate in a couple of minutes. There are user guides on how to use the platform if some things don't make sense and you have questions. And then we also have the help desk at fifthdomain.com.au email if you don't have access to the help button. It's also on the login page if you have login issues. So we will help you if you can't get in. Do not attack the CTF infrastructure, please. We will notice, and it won't get you points. We will have to boot you from the competition. And then try and not prevent other players from engaging with the challenges. This doesn't apply for the qualifier dry run. Sorry, for the dry run. For the qualifier, there will be some challenges that are hosted infrastructure that you'll be scanning with tooling. And then because it's the shared box between players, if you manage to compromise that box, you might be able to disrupt other players from completing that challenge. So we ask for you not to do that, and we'll keep logs of what's happening. For this particular one, for those of you worried about in-scope and out-of-scope activities, so what is in-scope for this platform and competition? This is the public IP address of the VM that is part of this challenge set. So if you want to find out if you're scanning and doing your challenge solving things on the right box, that is the IP address to double check against. But typically most challenges won't require automated network scanning tooling. It's all quite particular and planned. So you don't have to use Nikto to scan through all the vulnerabilities on a box. You don't have to use dir, buster to do like a brute force scan of endpoints. There will be some logic to the madness that is the challenge, so you don't have to brute force it using tooling. So what is a flag? If you haven't done a challenge before, a flag for almost every CTF is a particular string format. So these are also known as trophies if you're doing red team assessment. So these are planted in the challenge, and this is a particular string that represents solving that challenge. So to get that string, you have to do some steps depending on the challenge type, and how many points are associated will depend on, will mean how hard and how long it takes to get that particular string out. Some challenges have exceptions, so it might be a hash of a file, but the challenge will state that it is the non-standard format, which is outside of the flag. Curly brace, some text, curly brace. There is a first solve challenge bonus. So if you're the first player or the first team, in this case, it's player. For the qualifier, I believe it's team. If the first team to solve that challenge, you will get something as known as first blood. So your team will have bragging rights to be the first one to solve that challenge, and everyone else can still get the points for the challenge, but they don't get to be the first team that solved that challenge. So that's the rules. Once we accept, we are now in the competition. And then for this dry run, there is only 5. For the qualifier, there'll be more. And then for the main event, there'll be more still. So a good way to start working through a CTF and the challenge set, especially if there are a number of challenges on the day and you have 6 hours to do the competition, is to, in your team, work out where your strengths lie, whether you are really into digital forensics and incident response, and that is your specialty, and you've read up on those particular challenge sets. You can filter the challenges to be that particular category, and then you can start working through those challenges on the day. If your strengths lie elsewhere, you can let your team know and work on those particular challenges. The lower the points, the easier it is. The higher the points, the harder it is. And this typically will vary on the particular challenge set, but the easy point ones we won't expect more than like half an hour, and then for the higher point values, they start to ramp up to be a few hours. For one of the 1,000 point ones, you could be spending the entire competition on that challenge. So we typically recommend targeting the easier challenges first to get the ball rolling and to get a feel for the competition, and then start to target the more difficult challenges. So for this particular challenge, it's a file-based challenge. So what that means is you'll be downloading a file here, and then you'll be trying to find the flag. In this case, the object ID, sometimes known as an SSID. And then once you found it, you'll know you found it because it is in the form flag brace object ID. And it gives an example of the format. So downloading the file, Following the instructions, you'll find the flag, you solve the challenge. I'm just trying to find which one. I think it's cheetah. This is an example from the rules where it's a public virtual machine hosted in the cloud. And then so to access this, you'll be going to this, in this case, a website that doesn't have a certificate for it. And then once you find the flag, which is in the standard format flag, curly brace, because you don't specify that it's a non-standard flag, we then enter it here and then solve the flag. The rest of these, for example, cryptography, is often ciphertext in the challenge, or is a file download where you're trying to find a particular string. To see how your team is going for the qualifiers, be able to see overall progress in terms of all the challenges, whether you have done all of a particular category, and whether there is still more to go. And then you can see this is for all the challenges, the point allocation and whether your team has done it. I'll show you what team mode looks like in a second. And then in this particular dry run, we do not have the challenge dependency chains. So these are challenge sets where it's expected to have prior knowledge to complete further challenges in this series. So this would be, let's say, a challenge set of 4 challenges. To solve 2 to 4, you use knowledge, abilities, and typically artifacts or information found from the first one to solve later ones. So they're locked behind, and you'll see that in the challenge tree, what are available, which are the blue, and what is locked, which would be gray. Then I can also see how I'm going on this competition, who is leading, the top placements, where they got their points, and where my team sits, or in this case me, here, rank 2. So that is the competition platform, how the challenges work, and how it'll work for the dry run and for the qualifier. Are there any questions so far?
Sorry.
Yes, so reading chat, can't do the dry run now. Yes, the dry run is open now for you to test if you can connect to the CTF. And if you have any issues from a technical side, and then the link to the dry run, that'll be organized by, I think, us or Techion. Someone will help you get access to the dry run during this or just after this meeting. Sorry, I have to go get a drink of water. My throat is a bit dry. I'll be back in 1 second to continue on with Teams mode. Sorry for the interruption, everyone. Will the challenge competition also be similar to dry run? Yes, it'll be very similar, except the challenge set will be different challenges. There'll be more of them. But the process of how the platform will look, how you solve the challenge, or how you submit flags will be the same. I will show you what this looks like in Teams mode, because it's a little bit different to individual mode for once you form your teams for the competition. So in Teams mode, it's similar, except you can indicate to your team how you're going in terms of solving or struggling with a particular challenge. So I'll just show you, for those of you who don't already have teams created, you can create a new team, or I think teams will be allocated to you. So once you have your team password, or you're already pre-allocated in your teams, the difference between individual team mode is I can see my team progress on the sidebar. So this is how my team is going overall, who is in it, what challenges we have nominated to be working on in terms of people in the team actively working on, and then what challenges we've solved as a team already. But everything else is the same in that I can see how my team is performing on the scoreboard. I, as an individual, can go in and start to complete challenges. And then I will see which challenges have been marked as completed by my team in this page. But we can also leave notes for our team members. So if we are working on a challenge that we are finding difficult, I can say, I am stuck on a particular challenge. And then my team members will see that I am stuck on this challenge and then take over from where I have stopped. You can also leave, I have tried these commands, or I have read this blog post, and I think it helped, but I got a little bit stuck. For example, if you're working on a higher point challenge that requires more steps. I also say I am working on this challenge in my activity status. And so in the team menu, if I'm opening it, I can see who is working on it. And so I don't work on the same challenge at the same time as someone else without communicating to them, because for the 6-hour events and the 3-hour events, there are far more challenges to do than you will have time to do them. So you want to split your work up so you are working on as many challenges as you can to try and get as many points as you can before you run out of time. And I've in the past on a team doing a CTF, I've not checked my notes or messaged people when I switched challenges, because maybe I went through 6 challenges before I found one that matched my skill set, and then I was working on it at the same time as someone else was. And then if one of us goes to submit a flag, we might spend an hour working on a challenge without actually helping the overall team, because the challenge has just been submitted and I didn't help solve it because I'm still working on it, if that makes sense. So having good communication with your team, especially remote, especially team members being in different regions from you, will be important for this event and for you to do well as a team. But everything else is the same as the dry run in terms of the challenge map, the challenge dependencies, getting help, logging in, seeing the scoreboard, and so forth. Any more questions at the moment? I'll just quickly check chat if you guys don't want to speak. Yes, you have access to the dry run by logging into the platform. And then once you've logged in with your credentials, you should see a little card that looks like this one here, C2C 2021 dry run here. When can we build the teams? That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I will take that on notice and ensure the answer gets back to you at some point. Any other questions at the platform before we move on to the rest of the slides to give tips on how to prepare for a CTF? There will be 10 minutes allocated to questions at the very end as well, once I've gone through the tips to prepare, just in case you have questions that come up during this. So on to tips for preparing. There is a lot of CTFs that are hosted by small organizations like a university.
Recording in progress.
So there's a lot of people host CTFs like university student science groups or conferences that are hosting their CTF for public access. So you might not get prizes, but you can still see the challenges, attempt them. And then, especially for long-running CTFs, you'll often find write-ups for challenges for that particular event. So it's good to look at sites like CTF Time, capture the flag events, and then either looking for write-ups on challenge categories that you are interested in, whether this is exploitation categories, digital forensics, to try and specialize a little bit before the actual competition. So a good way to prep would be to pick a category that you are interested in and then start to look for challenges in that category for previous or currently ongoing competitions on the internet. And then if you get stuck, try and take notes of what the challenge was, what tools or commands you used, and then look at the write-up. So these are the solutions that people have put up that they have done for those challenges, and see how they did it, whether they used a different tool to you, whether they just tried more things before something worked, and so forth. It's also important to note that signposting and knowing what to do can be a little bit difficult depending on the challenge. So a lot of the time it is a little unclear as to the path that you need to take to solve a challenge. You might know the category and then a vague description, but it might not indicate what technique or what tool they might expect you to use. So that's when you start to hopefully through some practice have a list of like common tools that people use for these challenges, and then just work your way through them, taking notes of the output before you find something that works. Hopefully for the easier challenges for you, they will be quite easy to follow the signposting, so it's not that confusing. But for the higher point ones in particular, there will not be much signposting. It's expected for you to just try things and try different things till you find the answer. Some of the very high point ones basically just go at it and they give you a file, and it's up to you to do some forensics and to step through the file using the internet to help you before you find the solution. Another thing for if there are no CTFs that are running or you like the look of, you can also do war games, which are similar to CTFs, but they are typically longer running. So Over the Wire is a particular good one, and then Over the Wire Bandit is a beginner series. So these are public boxes that you can SSH into and then find the flag for each level. And they are public and they are open for you to start working your way through. These typically target beginner Linux operating system type skills. And so as you do the war games, you'll become more familiar with using Linux and with using built-in command terminals and prompts to build those skills, which would be quite handy in Capture the Flags, because a lot of Capture the Flags expect you to use a Linux operating system, and some of them expect you to use a CTF or red teaming specific operating system. The most common one is Kali, which is a Linux operating system that has tooling already installed for you, so you don't have to install the tools yourself, and it's the standard one for CTFs. So the recommendation there would be to set up a Kali virtual machine in whatever machine you are using to do the CTF in. That way it doesn't impact your regular operating system, especially if you use Windows for Word documents and photo editing. You don't want to install a different operating system just to do the CTF. You can do it in a virtual machine and then delete it once you're done. This is also recommended for public open to all CTFs, because some of the challenges might be live malware analysis. And if you run it, it might infect your computer which is why we recommend for our one, you don't have to worry about that. But for public CTFs, especially on CTF time, there is a risk of doing some of those digital forensics challenges. So using a VPN is recommended there. So those are all the tips for preparing on a CTF for CTF challenges. Don't worry if you have a question, we will get back to them in 2 more slides. We have 10 minutes for questions. Do write it down there in case you forget for the next 3 slides. There are also training on particular topics that aren't a CTF challenge, but they are more broad. So these could be try Hack Me and Hack the Box rooms. So these are free online puzzles that try and teach you about a particular topic. So these are the topics for the 2021 challenge sets, for the country-to-country challenge set. So you have analysis, cryptography, digital forensics, incident response, exploitation, open source intelligence, reverse engineering, scripting, and steganography. And so if you have never done a CTF and you don't have specialization in a challenge category, it could be fun to pick 1 or 2 to start looking at before the qualifiers, to build knowledge on tooling and just how, like, what is the challenge and what is it asking you to do, and how do you find online resources to help you on the day. And that way, if you pick 2 or 3, then if your teammates, once you sort out your teams, also studied the thing that you did, you hopefully have a backup option, or you can both work together to solve the one challenge. It just gives you more options on the day. And then, yes, I think this is an important point at the bottom. It's a competition, but it's also about having fun. There is first, second, and third place is like a fight to be number 1, but everyone else gets to experience a CTF, which is fun. Meet new people and your teammates for online. Find new challenge categories that you might not have heard of before, or new techniques or new tools, and just experience them. And then that way, post-competition, you'll be like, that was a cool tool, I'm going to learn more about it, or I never saw that technique before, or it'll be nice if I could finish this challenge, especially if you're working on a challenge for a while, don't get to solve it before the competition ends. You can always work on it in your own time to build up that skill and be ready for the next CTF if you get hooked and want to do more of them. Because this is an international competition, your team members are likely to be in different regions, different time zones. So it's good to work out a game plan with your team before the competition. This will be how you communicate. Is this on Discord? Is this on just the notes inside the platform? Setting up a Discord server is free. It's what people have used in some competitions before. I've used it before. So you just set up a free server, invite people, blow it away post-competition. Good to keep notes, especially if you want to voice communicate with your team throughout the competition. Will you be working together on a challenge or independent? And then while it's nice to work for the entire competition, you will fatigue and you will start to go down rabbit holes, especially in like hour 11 or 12 for the longer competitions. So it's good to take breaks. Don't forget to eat and sleep for the competition. And do test your tools before you get in there. So if you're going to use Kali, I'd recommend trying to set it up a couple of days beforehand and just have a play. That way you're not panicking and trying to download the virtual machine at the start of the competition. So that is it for the tips and how the platform works. We now have a bunch of time for questions, which I'll try and answer as many as I can before we finish. How many challenges will be in the qualifier round? 25 challenges will be in the qualifier round. Also for access for the qualifier round, so just to reiterate there, for access to the dry run, you do have to log in and read the rules. So what I did at the very start of this session to access the dry run. Is the VPN for the competition provided? As far as I know, there will be no VPN for your competition. Yeah, there's no VPN required. You can use one if you want, but the challenge boxes that are hosted online will be open to the public, so you don't have to access it through a particular network. You can just access it through the link provided in the challenge, which will typically be a URL. And the IP address will be shown in the rules if you're concerned about accessing the wrong website or someone else's version of the challenge. How many challenge authors are there? That's a great question. I will take that on notice and then get back to you at some point. Are we allowed to do our own write-ups of the challenge on CTF is complete? Yes, we encourage you to do write-ups because they are a good way to remember what you did, especially if you collaborate them on a team with a pseudonym or your hacker name if you want one. And then that way you can start to have a repository of techniques, commands, stuff that you've done previously, you can refer back to and you can share them around. How many challenges are required to complete to move on to the next round? There is no requirement to complete a certain number of challenges. Yeah. No worries. Any other questions about preparing for a CTF, how to use the platform, what a challenge is? Awesome. I guess that'll be it from me. Thank you for having me. It was a joy to give this webinar. Good luck in the competition. Don't forget to have fun, and communication will be key to doing well.